Okay, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Mitchell Steinberg. I'm the Assistant Cultural Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo. In collaboration with World Learning, we're holding virtual and in-person programs on issues critical to the U.S.-Japan alliance. Today, we're excited to bring you a virtual program titled Accelerating Secured AI Adoption for Government, Industry, and Practitioners. Joining us today are our speaker, Mr. Walker Dimon, MITRE Atlas lead and AI for Cyber Group leader at MITRE, and our moderator, Ms. Ayaji Furukawa, Senior Manager, Security and Technology Department, AI Digital and R&D Center, Toshiba Corporation. Before we begin, I'll go over a few administrative items. This session is on the record and will be archived on the U.S. Embassy webpage at a later date. The speaker and moderator are not employees of the U.S. government, and their remarks and expertise do not represent the official policy of the U.S. government. There will be English and Japanese simultaneous interpretation. Following the speaker's remarks, we will open up the session for questions and answers. We invite you to submit your questions throughout the session in the Q&A box. You can submit questions anonymously in either Japanese or English. Now, let me introduce the speaker and moderator. Walker Dimon is the MITRE Atlas lead and the AI for Cyber Group leader within MITRE's AI and Autonomy Innovation Center, where he leads technical and research teams at the intersection of AI and cybersecurity. Through his work as MITRE Atlas lead, Mr. Dimon is focused on advancing security towards the rapidly evolving AI ecosystem to help enable rapid technology adoption. As MITRE's AI for Cyber Group leader, he and his team explore the unique challenges, vulnerabilities, and opportunities that arise when integrating AI technologies into the cybersecurity landscape for government missions, encompassing AI applications in both offensive and defensive cyber contexts. Mr. Dimon also currently serves as lead PI for an internally funded research and development effort investigating the application of agentic retrieval augmentation generation large language model architectures for a variety of applied U.S. government applications within the cyber domain. Ms. Ayaji Furukawa is the Senior Manager at the Security Technology Department, AI Digital and R&D Center of Toshiba Corporation. She joined Toshiba in 2019 and has been involved in cybersecurity initiatives across the Toshiba Group, including strengthening governance, ensuring compliance with regulations, developing human resources, supporting product security, and promoting awareness and implementation of control system security. Previously, she worked at the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry, promoting cooperation with Europe and the United States on industrial security. Ms. Furukawa also currently serves as a specialist committee member at Japan's Information Technology Promotion Agency's Industrial Cybersecurity Center, where she is responsible for international collaboration on industrial security. Her activities include organizing the Industrial Control Systems Cybersecurity Week for the Indo-Pacific region in cooperation with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State. She is also engaged in standardization activities as a member of the IEC Advisory Committee on Information Security and Data Privacy. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Dimon for his presentation.
Thank you so much, Mitchell. Good morning, everybody. It is an honor to join you here today for a discussion on how um, us at the MITRE Corporation are helping accelerate the secure adoption of AI for a variety of use cases across government, industry, and practitioners of the technology in general. And I'm going to do that by walking you through one of our primary AI platforms within the MITRE organization called MITRE Atlas. So within our AI and Autonomy Innovation Center, which is the lab where I sit within MITRE. We have a primary research focus dedicated towards AI assurance. And what this framework is meant to do is help bolster the accelerated adoption of AI technology across various operational domains by aligning any given AI system off the shelf, whether that be developed commercially or developed internally within our organization, and aligning that system towards the larger operational context of the domain that it's placed in. There's a lot of components to this, a lot of perspectives that are involved within AI assurance. The MITRE Atlas framework is responsible for providing an AI security evaluation framework for any given AI system. And so when I talk about AI security, what I'm really talking about is sort of the security intersection of AI with cybersecurity. So many of you are probably familiar with the concept of cybersecurity in general. AI security in of itself borrows a lot of common language and perspectives with cybersecurity applied to the AI domain. And so within the MITRE Atlas framework, we have three primary pillars, those being the security and assurance of AI-enabled systems, evaluating how AI may be used either offensively or maliciously as part of an overall cyber campaign. And then the third being leveraging AI for general cybersecurity practices. The right pillar, the one that is sort of boxed out here on this slide, this is primarily what the MITRE Atlas framework is intended to provide for government stakeholders. And it has served as a mechanism to help bolster the conversation surrounding secured AI adoption beyond just the United States. We actually have a global community internationally where folks come together to try and offer various perspectives depending on their own, local nation state view and integration uh, picture for AI. And we try and sort of leverage MITRE Atlas to provide sort of a common framework for discussing those various topics. And so, what MITRE Atlas is in general is a knowledge base to capture the threat landscape of AI-enabled systems. And the way that we do that is by taking a look at the operational landscape of AI and try and capture real-world demonstrated AI attack vectors where adversaries are trying to induce some type of effect on an AI system for an adversarial outcome. And there's a lot of examples of this dating back within the MITRE Atlas knowledge base to the early 2010s, where you have begun to see within a given domain use case adversaries taking advantage of the way that data is interpreted by an AI system uniquely and leveraging that to their own advantage. And so what you see here is an example of an incident captured within the MITRE Atlas framework. This was a real world scenario back in March of 2024, where a group of actors applied attacks towards the AI supply chain to try and extract private information from the data platform that the AI system was operating in. And we actually, in this case, you have a CVE number here to capture part of sort of the cyber vulnerability associated with this threat. And I like this slide because it starts to paint a picture of the fine line that you cross within a framework like MITRE Atlas, to where you're adopting a lot of the similar concepts, even down to CVE, common vulnerability exploits, and map them to AI systems, sort of moving beyond a cyber operational system. Because when you look at AI attacks through a framework like MITRE Atlas, uh, the AI system in of itself is a unique attack surface that a cyber operator can exploit. And so MITRE Atlas, perhaps some of you on the webinar may have heard of sort of its parent framework, MITRE ATT&CK. This is a uh, common knowledge repository for cyber physical systems and cyber enabled systems that maps out common tactics, techniques, and procedures across a variety of different operational use cases. And similar to MITRE Atlas, MITRE ATT&CK is intended to provide that common language for operators to understand the types of vulnerabilities that could be posed to a cyber system. MITRE Atlas is the same thing, just for AI enabled systems. And so this is a snapshot of our MITRE Atlas framework. Like I said, this is a globally accessible living knowledge base of adversary tactics, techniques, and procedures. And the idea is you are able to navigate this framework. All of these little cells here that you see in the corresponding columns to a given parent tactic, all of these are associated with observable, real world, recognizable instances of threat actors exploiting an AI system in some way. And from a cyber operational point of view, you can chain a series of these cells together. Each of these cells is its own unique technique. And when these are chained together, you have an attack campaign to where you can really start to understand as an AI developer, practitioner, whether that be in government or industry, to help understand the relevant risk areas posed towards your AI system, depending on what the system is doing, so its task or its operation, how users can interact with that system, how information is ingested by the AI model, and then how that information is disseminated to end users. This framework actually is something that we are currently collaborating with folks in Japan through a research university group to where we are helping them map out some own unique use cases respect to their own operational missions. So this is something that we commonly collaborate with international partners on. It is something that is flexible. It can cross domain use cases. Obviously, sort of in the AI world, generative AI or large language models right now really sort of dominate the scene. AI agents are a subcategory of that, and they dominate the scene perhaps even more so than just traditional large language models. But the MITRE Atlas framework dates back to pre-generative AI systems to more predictive systems. Something that we recently released as part of this framework is the ability to toggle what you see within our knowledge base into three primary categories of attacks that have been either feasible, demonstrated, or realized. And what that does is offers the end user an understanding on the maturity level of a given attack posed to an AI system. So perhaps if you're a practitioner or an operator using AI, you may be less worried about feasible attack pathways that may have been demonstrated in small research labs, and you're only worried about ones that have been demonstrated or realized in the public sphere. And so you can start to filter out some of these techniques across the Atlas framework just to help sort of consolidate the relevant pathways that may be posing threats to your given system. So, in addition to the tactics and techniques within MITRE Atlas with across our threat matrix, we also offer a handful of case studies that try and capture a lot of these techniques in action. And this is an area where I think as a enthusiast or user of AI, this begins to paint a realistic picture of understanding on how these different techniques can be chained together to create and cause some type of adversarial outcome based off an adversary's intent. So I have an example here on this slide This was a use case submitted to us from a research institution that they call Poison GBT. And what they did was release they downloaded a openly available LLM called GPT-J. They manipulated a handful of its model weights to inject various pieces of information into the model, and then they loaded that model back onto the Hugging Face platform, which is a publicly accessible platform for these AI systems, just to indicate how easy it is to manipulate these models in various ways. So we have a number of these case studies spanning across different operational use cases. And this is something that we continue to keep updated as the AI field in of itself is advancing. And this is one area that is really exciting, sort of from a MITRE ATLAS point of view, but in general, an AI security point of view, is because there is so much innovation within this area right now. Each main innovation era offers its own unique threats that we may not have seen previously based off the state of the field before a given innovation. And so, as the field continues to advance, you see a lot of emerging threats. Within MITRE Atlas, pay very close attention to the community's understanding and involvement with the AI security field and take that into consideration while we are updating and continuing to build out this knowledge base. And so within the MITRE Atlas framework, we try and provide two primary releases a year. The slide that you see here is a snapshot of our most recent update from this spring. We are scheduled to release a fall update actually next week to MITRE Atlas. So there will very soon be a fall 2025 matrix update. And here you can see just a variety of case studies and new techniques that have been added into the knowledge repository. Supply chain attacks was a big focus of ours earlier in the spring. This last spring release was one of the main updates where we were diving into generative AI attack vectors. This new release for next week will focus on retrieval augmented generation systems or RAG enabled systems, as well as agentic systems, which may be some of the more, I guess, crunchy, newer use cases for large language models that we're starting to see consistently across the AI community. And so one of the main questions with the generative AI paradigm um, is how does AI impact cyber operations in general? And I think that, everybody who is a cyber operator who understands at least a little bit of AI, they can see a picture where having an AI enhanced cyber operator can be a game changer on what you're able to do. And so something more recently that we provided within the MITRE Atlas framework is what we're calling a malicious use of AI for cyber expansion. And this slide here captures the framing that we are pursuing to try and understand the unique threats and vulnerabilities posed by AI systems, not to AI systems, which is what MITRE Atlas has traditionally tried to track, but AI-enabled threats by AI systems for cyber operations. And so we're trying to understand the unique effects and outcomes by an AI accelerated cyber operator across various operational use cases. We're also focusing in on key sectors such as supply chain and critical infrastructure to help our government partners understand with beyond feasible threats moving into demonstrated and realizable threats, what are some security considerations that they should factor into their own technology design framework with these AI accelerated cyber operators in mind? And this is also an area that we're continuing to grow out now and into the future because as generative AI expands into especially the agentic realm, that's where we see a real opportunity for moving from fiction more towards fact and what could have at once been considered sci-fi actually realizable from the cyber operational point of view. So we're fairly excited about that. One of the other frameworks that MITRE Atlas provides, in addition to its knowledge base, is our AI incident sharing platform. This, in my personal view, is one of the primary hurdles that us as an AI security community is working its way through in order to really accelerate the dissemination of information uh, posed to AI systems within a given mission area or organization or operational space, how to map incidents that are at their core due to having AI technology within your system design and sort of piece together forensically how you can mitigate similar incidents from occurring in the future. And so AI-incidents.miter.org is a platform that we have built that allows users to anonymize their AI incidents to get really to the core of what went wrong within the operational context, either because of AI or that affected an AI system in general, whether that be cybersecurity attacks or other means. And then just sort of provide sort of a knowledge repositories that others can sort of look through. No personal identifiable information is publicly accessible within this database. But again, the intention is just to try and provide a mechanisms for people to understand potential incidents within relevant use cases to them. Similar to that, our MITRE AI risk database is intended to serve sort of as the cyber version of CVE to capture vulnerabilities posed towards AI systems. And so this is another website that you can actually visit, airisk.miter.org. And the intention behind this database is for a user to enter sort of a quick summary or con op of an AI system that they're intending to build or how they're trying to leverage AI into a larger system of systems. And this risk database can help that user understand relevant vulnerabilities to that given use case. And so this is something that we are really starting to pivot towards moving into 2026 to flesh out. We have hopes and dreams to integrate some type of test and evaluation mechanism into this database to where you can plug your own AI model into this, and it can run a series of tests to give you a vulnerability profile associated with that model when you pair it to both data and potential MITRE Atlas TTPs that you want tested against. And so this is a way to where uh, we hope that we can allow people to really couple threats and vulnerabilities together across our knowledge base and the risk database. And then you can also disseminate that information across our incident sharing platform for others to leverage as well. So the idea is that these three pillars, the knowledge base, the incident sharing platform, and the risk database provide a secure AI ecosystem that as they get more increasingly adopted, can help accelerate the overall community at more secure design of their technology. So I know I'm coming down to the last couple minutes here. Something that I wanted to highlight, sort of capturing Atlas's role on a global stage, which is where I think we could open up a really interesting area of discussion between the U.S. and Japan specifically, is our NATO research group that we have been involved with for the last year and a half or so. MITRE Atlas is responsible for the AI security arm of this. And really, what this is intended to do is bring international stakeholders together across governments and industry among various nations and just offer a room for various perspectives to provide their insights into what AI security means for them. And it helps us also mature and expand MITRE Atlas as a result. And so I'll leave this slide here before I go into question and answer, just capturing the three primary pillars of MITRE Atlas from AI incident sharing to AI risk database to the Atlas matrix itself. If anyone is interested in having a more one-on-one engagement following this webinar, I can also leave some contact information here for you. Happy to engage both, throughout the rest of this call and afterwards if you'd like to talk about our perspective of securing AI for accelerated adoption further. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Mr. Dimon, for your very informative presentation. Before we start with the discussion, I just would like to remind the audience that you can submit any questions that you have through the Zoom Q&A box. You can submit questions either in Japanese or in English, anonymously. So please feel free to submit any questions there. So with that, I'll turn things over to Furukawa-san to lead our discussion. Thank you.
はい、古川です。ウォーカーさん、どうも興味深いプレゼンありが
Furukawa
とうございました。
here. Thank you very
マイトラというの
much,
は日本最大の
Walker-san, for
半
an
導体製造会
interesting
社ですけれども、
presentation.
マイトラさん
Toshiba
の
is a
セキュリテ
manufacturer,
ィ技術
but
は
the
世界的
MITRE
の技術と
Atlas
国家
as
でも大変使っておりま
cyber
す。
physical
今回はです
security
ね、その
control
AI シス
system
テム
is
に
very
対す
important
る
in
ロ
assessing
シ
our
アから
risks.
の攻撃
So
の
this
まあ
time we
攻
heard
撃
about
について
MITRE's
伺っていき
attack
たいと思
framework
って
on
おりま
AI
すけれ
system,
ども、
MITRE
初めに
Atlas.
トーキングポイントを3つ挙
So
げて
I
いただきたいんです
received
けれど
three
も、
talking
私の
points
方からそ
from
れぞ
your
れに
end in
しっかり
advance.
ご
So
質
on
問さ
these
せてい
three
ただきた
talking
いと思い
points,
ま
I'd
す。
like to ask
ま
you
ず最初
a
は
couple of
AI
questions.
によって
First,
進化するサイバー
so
攻撃
AI
の新
is
たな脅威について
reshaping
です
the
ね、
cyber
まあ、
threat
先ほど
landscape,
ご説
and
明い
there
ただ
are
いた中で
new
も、
threats
どういうこ
emerging
と
in
が
this area.
必要な
In
の
your
か、ま
presentation,
あ、例
you
えば
said that
AI
there are
ハックの改
unique
ざんであるとか、
threats
まあ、デ
and
ータの
attacks to
漏
AI
洩、あと
systems, such
AI に
as
ついて所有の計
data
画性について見
poisoning
たり
and
もあ
model
りまして、ま
manipulation
た
and
しては
attacks
AI
that
サイバー
exploit
攻
the
撃の脅威
vulnerabilities
も、ま
unique
あ、
to
非常に
AI
懸念され
models.
ているということをお
And
伺い
you
していま
said
す。
that you
で、
organized
先
the
ほどから
AI
質問
cyber
があった
attack
のは、
threats.
実際の攻撃事例をベースに、
And what
現
was
在の警
interesting
察
is
社
that
などを
based on
通じて、
the
それを調査をし
incidents
ている
that
ということ
actually
で、
occurred,
で、
you
次
are
のペー
also
ジにお伺いし
publishing the
たいのは、
knowledge
これら
base
のケーススタディを通
and
じて、実際
instances.
の攻撃、あるい
So
は
what
異
I'd
常事
would
態
like to
の
ask you
情報
is
であると
based
か、
on the
ま
actual
あ、最
case
前線にも
studies.
触れていらっしゃるんですけれども、まあ、
You are
AI
looking
に
at
よっ
the
て、まあ、サイバー
forefront
攻
of what's
撃
happening in
の
this
防
area,
衛者、
but
またその私たち守る側っていう
how
のもいろいろ
do
必要だ
you
と発展し
think
てきている
the
と思うんです
AI
けれども、
is
その
reshaping the
AI って
structure
いう
of
のが
cyber
サイバー
threats?
攻撃に
Because
ど
the
ういう
way
まあ
the
役割を
offense
する
is
のか、
taking place and
というこ
defense
と
is
をお
taking
聞かせい
place
ただけ
is
ますでしょうか。ま
changing.
あ、攻撃の戦術とか、まあ、手法、
The
ま
threat
た防御の面で
tactics
も、まあ、どのよう
and
なゲームチ
techniques
ェン
are
ジが起きてい
changing,
るというように
but
お
what
伺い
kind
し
of
ました。
game changes are happening on the defense side as well? That's the first question.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and excellent question here to get started. So I would say fundamentally, the way AI is reshaping the structure of cyber threats is really removing barriers of expertise on how to conduct a specific attack. Where traditionally you had cyber operators who, were kings and queens of their craft. They effort that was required to conduct sophisticated cyber operational campaigns against a given target was both time consuming and required a lot of expert knowledge, both of the victim system and then also the cyber attack methodology in of itself. AI takes away a lot of that those requirements. You can train, especially with generative AI models you're seeing all the time, um, the ability to train knowledge of various attack behaviors or attack patterns into an AI system. And when you pose example questions of a victim environment or a victim network that an AI would be tasked with attacking. More and more often, you're seeing those reach expert capabilities, and so I would definitely say that that's sort of the core, I think, threat that people see when you have AI accelerated attacks for cyber. When you move into sort of autonomous action spaces using AI agents, AI agents aren't a very new concept. They've been around for decades. But when you bootstrap a generative model, like a large language model, and you have that rich expert knowledge of the domain area, and you allow it to take actions on its own, and to me, that is where speed obviously becomes a factor as well, to where you're seeing AI-enabled cyber campaigns being conducted at machine speed instead of human operated. So I think you start to see accelerants sort of couple onto one another, all sort of corely rooted in this expert knowledge in the area. From a defensive point of view, you also have that exact same that what is a threat becomes a benefit because you can introduce expert systems that are AI driven into your protective landscape as well, to where they can be looking for adversarial patterns within an information feed, or they can connect to hundreds, thousands of endpoints that are trying to understand specific actions that are being taken within an environment or a network. And if anything sort of is presented to them that is quote unquote abnormal, they can respond to it very quickly because they can also work at machine speed. And so, you are starting to see what traditionally I think was kind of a game theory style use case of red agents versus blue agents pitted against one another within some type of AI sandbox. You're really starting to see consequential outcomes of that with generative AI and the expert knowledge and the wide variety of operations that they can execute. When you scale that to, you know, a large AI compute infrastructure, that's where it can become really interesting. It can be a danger, but it can also be a big benefit as well. And so that to me is sort of how we look at it through the MITRE ATLAS lens.
ありがとうございます。確かに
Thank you very much. So with AI, indeed, the speed is becoming faster and faster, and also it's removing the barrier of the expertise. I fully agree with you on that. So let me move on to the second question. The second point was about the international cooperation and responsible innovation. So when it comes to cyber attack, it was always cross-border, but with AI emerging, the speed is becoming faster and faster. And MITRE ATLAS is providing a common language to counter the cyber attacks. That's what you explained in the presentation. So the AI technology is being utilized across the border. So safe data sharing and also joint research is important, and responsible AI development practice is going to be more and more important in the future. So my question is, Atlas is a systematically organized knowledge base. How do you see such knowledge bases like Atlas contributing to international collaboration and the safe advancement of emerging technologies, including Japan-US cooperation? Furthermore, so you mentioned AI assurance framework. What do you think is the possibility of international cooperation, and what are the challenges and potential opportunities in international cooperation in this regard?
Yeah, that's great. So I think in terms of opportunities from MITRE ATLAS specifically and AI assurance, I think that they do share a lot of common ground. So I'll take MITRE ATLAS thinking specifically. I think opportunities that you can see arise are ones in which on the international stage, country to country, government to government, your priorities from a security point of view are naturally going to be somewhat different. There's an American set of priorities, and then there's international set of priorities. And I think what is nice about MITRE ATLAS is it allows government stakeholders, both within the United States and Japan and elsewhere, to really provide that perspective and sort of introduce their own priorities into the common knowledge framework. So I really see international collaborations through a mechanism like MITRE ATLAS only helping the overall maturity and capabilities within the knowledge base in our incident sharing platform and our risk database, and providing a net positive towards the AI security community at large. As for AI assurance, I think you have a lot of similarities there. Because similar to sort of how various uh, countries may be looking at AI security slightly differently, I think that inherently you also see a situation where countries look at AI assurance slightly differently as well. Perhaps there's considerations such as observability, transparency, traceability as you start to walk down all the various pillars of AI assurance. The fact that there may be priorities that differ from one to another, I think similar to MITRE ATLAS will sort of fundamentally improve the overall assurance standing of AI systems at large.
ありがとうございます。先ほどの今の回答の中でも、そのイン
Thank you
シデン
very
トの
much. So, incident sharing platform was also mentioned in your presentation. The last question is about the public-private partnerships and infrastructure resilience. So, I'd like to ask you about how you share information. In Japan, we have the Proactive Cyber Defense Act that was enacted. So, critical infrastructure operators need to share incidents to the government. And public and private partnership and collaboration will probably be stronger in the future in Japan as well. So, MITRE ATLAS is now sharing the incidents on AI system. So cyber incident sharing and AI threat incident sharing, what is the difference and what are the uniqueness and highlights of sharing incidents on AI system threats?
Yeah, great question. I think that there
あ
could
り
be a
がと
fair
うござい
amount of
ます。
similarities between cyber incidents and AI incidents. I think that in any given AI incident could actually have a large cyber influence in of itself. I think the where potential differences might lie between at least how MITRE Atlas tries to look at AI incidents is we're not only focused on from the AI model level and the operational environment level, what caused a potential incident to occur and forensically diagnose the situation from there. We also sort of open up the aperture a little bit to try and understand within the operational context if you have AI influencing other parts of a given operational system, how can those be affected as well? And so I think that you can sort of approach the two similarly from a cause and effect point of view, where you start to see some delineation is how you actually go about, or I'm sorry, what aspects of an AI system could have been the root cause of a given incident. I think that's where you see a lot of unique features of just AI systems in general, how they're interpreting information, how they're using that information to make decisions or take actions, whatever it might be. People often, consider that the black box nature of an AI model. Um, I think just trying to understand sort of if you can't understand the inner workings of an AI model, if it is a fairly black box system to you, I think at least understanding the relationship of inputs and effect to that model, the more information you have sort of surrounding those incidents in themselves, I think that helps to paint a clear picture surrounding the system and helps you to start to understand the behavior of the system better as a result.
どうもありがとうございます。私から質問している間に結構
Thank you.
皆様から参加していただいているの
We are
で、い
getting
ろいろな質問を受け取っているので、
quite a few
では
questions from
皆
the
さん
audience, so we would like to take questions from the
ま
floor.
ず一つ目ですけれども、
So first question, AI is spreading very quickly, and we are having a hard time to catch up, especially SMEs. So how can we protect ourselves from the AI's threats? For the next couple of years, what would you say will be the AI-related biggest threat or threats?
Yeah, great question. I think that question actually gets more and more difficult to answer as AI advancement accelerates more and more. So today, I would definitely say agentic AI combined with deep reasoning and multimodal inferencing. I think when you start coupling AI activities with various operational use cases sort of behind like a computer terminal, which I think is what we're most familiar with. Nowadays, there's a lot of text-based inferencing of AI systems, but when you start coupling perception with audio, with these other modalities, and you have a model that can reason through all that information and then can take actions autonomously, that is where your vulnerability landscape or attack surface, I think, just it almost blows up. It's kind of really hard to kind of scope down everything to consider. And so I imagine that we're going to stay within that realm over the next handful of years. I think that there may be some surprises along the way of just how those types of systems can be leveraged, especially when you consider compute time and inference loading and something, lots of things sort of on the hardware side of the fence, not necessarily on the software side of the fence. I think that in general, though, this agentic space that we're in will stick in and flesh out for a while. Yeah.
ありがとうございます。続々いただいているので、続々。
Thank you. Many more questions are coming in, so let's move on to the next question. For young people to understand the AI attacks to AI systems, what kind of perspective does the person need, and do we need to change the way we think?
Yeah, yeah. I like that question a lot. Because I think that you can be a security expert without being an AI expert, to a certain point. And when you start to take a look at an AI system and you start to ask the question, how can it be exploited and manipulated in different ways? I think just taking a look at the threat landscape from that point of view could honestly potentially enlighten some areas for you that I think deep AI experts on like the model development side may not immediately consider. Um, there is, I think, a certain point to where you do need to have a fundamental understanding, obviously, of AI to understand how particular manipulations of the system can be conducted. But I think you can get fairly creative just as a security expert, um, mapping that understanding towards AI. And you can come up with some pretty wacky, creative, unique things along the way.
ありがとうございます。で、次にいただいている質問が、
Thank you. The next question. Since we are in Japan, we use Japanese language. So, what do you see as a specific threat for Japan using AI with Japanese language?
Yeah, that definitely is an area that I've seen where the field is moving drastically, is in non-English reasoning. And so I think threats that you might see potentially historically with non-English large language models are starting to actually cease to exist, if I'm being honest with you. I think, naturally when you have sort of the frontier, at least, now in 2025 of AI innovation, sort of residing within the United States. Um, the forward thinking, I think, aspect of that is obviously sort of it comes with potential language biases along the way. But it's actually something that I really admire with the global companies as we're moving forward. It's just how many languages these models can understand, and reason with very, very well. And yeah, I think that hopefully we're moving beyond use cases like that.
ありがとうございます。 次の質問が、私たちが使用している
Thank you. So the
AI
next question
システムに関するデータ
is
の
about the latest and transparent information on the vulnerability of the AI system that we are using. How can we obtain such latest and most transparent information?
Yeah, great question. So we we even asked that question with MITRE ATLAS because the AI security community is humongous. I think this is an area actually that really shines within AI in general is the AI security community because you can access so much information on online, blogs. YouTube videos. I mean, it's pretty incredible the amount of people that take an interest in this area. And I think even if you just search on the internet for common AI security risks, you can find a tremendous amount of rich information to help you start to understand the landscape. And then there's frameworks like MITRE ATLAS. MITRE ATLAS is not the only AI security framework out there. There's many commercial companies that have their own versions of it that complement Atlas really well, actually, because MITRE Atlas's goal is to try and serve as a standard knowledge base that can be applied and has flexibility for a number of given mission sets. But if you take a look at some of the industry variants of these, that's actually an area where they can really dig deep into specific components that are most relevant to them. And so you do have a complementary ecosystem of frameworks along those lines as well.
ありがとうございます。ちょっと私からも追加で質問
Thank you
で、
very much. I have a follow-up question. So AI, you mentioned that the speed is increasing with AI and MITRE ATLAS.
最初のプレゼンテーション
So in your presentation, in spring and in autumn, you mainly updated MITRE ATLAS. You mentioned that. So the frequency of update, do you think it will be more timely or faster pace? I think that your effort will be much bigger, I believe. But compared to ICS and other frameworks, do you think that your frequency of updating MITRE ATLAS is much faster compared to others?
Very astute question. You picked up on what I wouldn't say is a contradiction, but definitely, yeah, the traditional cadence of updates to the MITRE ATLAS framework. I think we need to accelerate that moving forward. And I've actually challenged our MITRE ATLAS knowledge base team to try and do that immediately, especially with agentic AI. Over from our spring release to our fall release, that field advanced very quickly, and you started seeing all sorts of community engagement around the security considerations with that. But we just didn't have an update released, and that's okay because I think historically within MITRE ATLAS. Twice a year was more than enough time, and that was also following the release cadence of MITRE ATT&CK. So we tried to have those two lined up well. But yes, I completely agree with the sentiment of the question that accelerating the release updates to MITRE ATLAS, I think is going to be really important moving forward. Yeah.
ありがとうございます。それでは続々次からの質問に
Thank you. So moving on to the next question. So cyber attacks exploiting AI. You have regarding cyber attacks and exploit AI, it seems that MITRE ATLAS currently doesn't include a group section to represent APT, so similar entities like ATT and CK. Do you anticipate adding such a section as the analysis of cyber attack content progress in the future?
Yeah. Also another great question. We are trying to incorporate that perspective into our incident sharing platform and our AI risk database. Actually, with our fall release coming up, we are starting to move more into some cyber-related tactics that exist within MITRE ATT&CK, but we want to walk through that very slowly. and only expand in those areas if it makes sense for MITRE ATLAS to have them and not MITRE ATT&CK. And so luckily, because we're part of the same organization, we coordinate quite closely when it comes to these things. And so pretty consistently, we have conversations of which framework should particular incidents fold into. And so some go into MITRE ATLAS, but others do go to MITRE ATT&CK, and that's great. I'm glad that, especially within the
確か
AI
に、
landscape,
あの、
that you
ウォー
can
カーさんおっ
have
しゃるように、
Well,
combination with the two.
so, Mr. As Walker says, speed is important, but as you mentioned, in order to make it standardized, I think quality is also important. So balancing between the two is a challenge that you have. That's what I thought, listening to your comment.
I would agree. Yeah.
はい、では、すいません、次の質問に行きたいと思います。
Sorry, moving on to the next question. For researchers and students, what do they need to do to make sure to use AI in a safe manner?
Yeah. Luckily, nowadays, AI sort of safety, security, resiliency is really well baked into the pie of the major AI companies. And something that I really appreciate is how whenever you have sort of a major AI developer release a major model, they often have a report associated with it, diving into the tests and evaluations that they ran in order to meet certain security and safety thresholds. So I guess my advice is to just look out for ones that have that, have those tests and evaluation um, uh, um, sort of rubrics associated with the model. And I think that you'll be in good shape. Um, I personally really like open source AI because I think that it allows AI practitioners to access tools in a way that everybody can fairly utilize them. You do run into more risk though with safety, and so there is sort of a trade-off there because you don't always know where that model came from. So yeah, that would be my recommendation.
ありがとうございます。それでは次の質問で、
Thank you. Moving on to the next question about educating company employees. Our employees use AI at their home as well. So, what kind of training do we need to provide in order to avoid information leakage?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. So depending on what type of AI that you're using at home for information leakage, I think that there is a lot you have to consider sort of where that AI model is running. If behaviors can go a long way. I think again, this luckily is an area where a lot of frontier AI model developers take privacy leakage very seriously, and generally speaking, you can avoid a lot of it. There are adversarial tactics and techniques out there that can try and trick AI models into revealing information. That's information that frameworks like MITRE ATLAS really try and communicate to model developers just so they can consider that while they're releasing the technology to the public.
ありがとうございます。事前に質問もいくつかいただいているので、ちょっと最後一つか二つ取り上げてさせていただきたいと思います。AI ということで、
We are now talking about AI, so cross-border collaboration was the focus of the question from one of the government officials. So in the developing countries, how are developing countries are now introducing AI in an accelerated manner, but how can US and Japan support their implementation? You mentioned safety and AI assurance, but how can we cooperate with them in this regard?
Yeah. I think I already see evidence of that if I'm being honest with you. And I think that the open source community among both countries is healthy, and I think that that's how you allow countries that may be more developing to have access to this technology. Meta with the United States has always been a big proponent of open release of technologies, and so I think that we're in a position to where that's a very popular path to go, which is very exciting.
どうもありがとうございました。ちょうどいい時間になりましたので、たくさん
Thank you
皆さ
very
んから
much. I think this is a good time to close the Q&A session. We were able to receive a lot of questions from the participants, and we got many insights from workers. And so thank you very much, and I'd like to pass the microphone back to the MC.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank Mr. Dimon for joining us today and sharing his insights with us. And I would also like to thank Ms. Furukawa for her participation and excellent moderation of today's event. And a special thank you to our simultaneous interpreters and technicians. Lastly, I'd like to invite all of the participants to participate in a survey to share your comments and feedback about the program. For more information on our upcoming events and programs, please visit our website and social media pages. Just a reminder, we'll also be archiving the video of the recording of this program on our website. So we hope to see you at one of our future events. Thank you all again so much for joining us today. Thank you and take care.